guys, so this is my very first video since having my baby. We had a little girl, which of course you guys know I'm thrilled about. I was really expecting a boy, so it was like the most amazing thing ever when Nick got to call and say, it's a girl. So her name is Addison. She's absolutely perfect in every way. She looks a lot like I did. She's identical to my baby pictures. She doesn't look anything like Nick's baby pictures, but she has extremely long limbs, like long legs, long fingers and toes. She was 7 pounds, 9 ounces, and she was 21 inches long. So she definitely takes off of her daddy there. She has a full head of jet black hair, which I expected because I have a ton of hair. Nick has jet black thick hair. And I had a ton of acid reflux, which they say means a hairy baby. So tons of hair, which I absolutely love. And she's perfect in every way. And I decided to I'm just going to keep her off of YouTube. I just feel very strongly about children and the internet, and privacy's sake, I'm choosing to just keep her off. So I hope that you guys can understand that. I know a lot of people have been asking to see her, and it's just me being protective, I guess. I just want to keep her off of the internet. So I hope that you guys understand that. I'm sure anybody with kids can totally understand it, but I just want to say thank you so much for all of your emails and comments and messages and tweets and everything. You guys, the support has just been overwhelming, and I wish that I had time in the day to just respond to every single one of you, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate all of you and your just warm regards and pure happiness for us. It's amazing. I know you guys have been with me. If a lot of you guys have been with me from the beginning, since I was still filming in my parents' house, and you kind of got to go along with me to get engaged and married and a house and now a baby. So I just really appreciate your support, and I hope that you guys know just how much it means to me. So with that said, I'm going to share my labor and delivery story because I had a lot of people ask, and I love watching these. I loved watching these prior to having her because every experience is different, and I just think it's kind of cool to just hear everybody's experiences. So I have a ton of, so before I start, I just want to say I have a ton of pre-recorded videos. She was late, very late. So I had a lot of time to film prior to having her. So this is my first like live video, but you'll see a lot of videos coming up I have stockpiled. So I was still pregnant at the time, but there'll still be hopefully really good videos for you guys to watch. After this one, I think I'm going to post a video about my hospital bag and the actual things that I use. I think it would be really helpful because I know a lot of you guys recommended on that video for me to take things or not take things, and a lot of people asked me to kind of do an update, and I think that would be really helpful. So that will be the next one after this, and then we'll jump back into the beauty videos. So, okay, so as far as labor and delivery, it was actually quite the opposite experience of what I had expected. I had expected an extremely long labor because it was my first. I had expected to be pushing for a long time. Just to kind of give you a background, because they say it's like you're kind of similar to your parents. My mom was in labor with me for 14 hours. Nick's mom was only in labor with him for 5, I think she said. And I was 9 pounds 3 ounces, and Nick was 7 pounds 6 ounces, I think. So I was for sure expecting like an 8-pound baby, which I wasn't that far off. And I was expecting a long labor because they say you just take after your mom. But I actually kind of like took notes on my phone while I was there because I wanted to record all of it in the baby book, and I wanted to really remember it. So this will help me kind of with the video too. So I was due with her on May 7th, and May 7th came and went, and I had no progress. I think I was 1 centimeter and only 50% effaced, which is nothing. So then they told me that they would not let me go past 42 weeks because it just becomes dangerous. The placenta kind of can stop doing what it needs to do for her. So I was like praying every day that I would not have to be induced. That was just like the last thing I wanted. I just wanted to go naturally. I wanted her to come when she was ready, and I didn't want anyone intervening. So I was really dreading that. So at 41 weeks, I went again, and I was still only 1 centimeter, and I was still only 50% effaced. So that was at 41 weeks. And I went that Monday for like a stress test and an ultrasound, and everything was great. Her heart rate was really good. It was like up in the high 150s, and the tech actually said she could take a weight, like a general weight of the baby. So I was like, all right, let's bring it on. And she told me that she was estimating 8 pounds, 10 ounces, which I almost fainted. My husband, his mouth was to the floor, and all I kept thinking was, I'm going to need to have a C-section. Like, there's no way this baby is coming out that way. So, and I only gained 15 pounds with my pregnancy, and I don't know why. To be honest, throughout my pregnancy, in the very beginning, I was losing weight because I was so nauseous and I wasn't eating, and then I would just gain a pound here, a pound there, and then my doctor's like, you're probably just going to gain it all at the end. Well, the end came, and I was like, really only gaining like 1 pound every 2 weeks, or then nothing at all. I was extremely concerned. My doctor wasn't. She was like, it's really okay. The baby is completely healthy, sounds great, like you're doing everything you can. The only thing I can think is I had that surgery, which I've mentioned to you guys in the past, where they took a foot of my intestine. It was infected, they had to remove it, and since then the doctors told me I would only intake half the fat that a normal person would, so I'm thinking that had something to do with it. My eating habits did not change through pregnancy, and I've always been like a very health conscious eater, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. I definitely splurged when I wanted to splurge. I had ice cream like every night the last 2 weeks that I was pregnant with her. We went out for ice cream. So I definitely did splurge, but as far as like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that never changed. I did, she had me in the beginning eating an extra 500 calories a day, so I made sure to have like an extra smoothie a day just to put on the extra pounds. But anyway, so I only gained 15 pounds. So when the tech said 8 pounds, 10 ounces, I was like, holy cow, like that's my whole baby plus the placenta. So I was like, by then I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get induced. I'm going to need a C-section. I was freaking out. So that was Monday. I hadn't made any progress. I hadn't been dilated anymore. Then that Thursday, this was the following after May 7th. That Thursday I went back, and I was still only, I think I was 2 centimeters and like 60% effaced. So my doctor said, we're going to need to schedule you for an induction. So that was Thursday. They scheduled me to be induced Sunday at midnight, which was actually our wedding anniversary, ironically enough. I was trying to push off the induction for as long as I possibly could. That following Tuesday, I would have been 42 weeks. So I was trying to push it off as much as I could. So it was scheduled for Sunday. And I had that appointment on Thursday. So Friday morning, I was in bed. It was 8 o'clock, and I was like, I was feeling a little crampy, but nothing excruciating. I stayed in bed until 11 o'clock, just kind of breathing through them. I wouldn't even really call them contractions. They just felt like menstrual cycle cramps. By 11:30, Nick came home for lunch, and I said, I don't know, like these are feeling way different than the other pains that I had had. I'd had a lot of Braxton Hicks leading up to delivering her. They felt extremely different than the Braxton Hicks. The Braxton Hicks was just like a lot of tightening and a lot of pressure. These, I just described them as period cramps. So I called my doctor at 12 o'clock, and I told them what had been going on. By that time, I wasn't really timing them because they were pretty inconsistent, but the pressure and the pain of them was getting worse. So I went into her office at 1 o'clock, and she said, come in and we'll check you. And she said I was 2 to 3 centimeters and still 70% effaced. She said, I'm going to send you home. She said, I don't think you're going to make it until your induction, but I don't think you're going to go anytime soon. She said, just go home, try to relax. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because by then at 1 o'clock, I was like in pain. And she insisted that I wouldn't be able to talk and laugh like I was if they were real contractions. So I went home miserable, and basically I tried to get in the bath. I tried heat on my back, although I didn't ever have back labor. I was trying different positions. It was hurting me to lay down. I was just so uncomfortable. So by 5 o'clock, I called again. Her office had closed. So they directed me to the on-call doctor, and they said, come to the hospital and we'll check you again. So the hospital is like 25 minutes away from us. So we packed everything, and I was like, I am not coming home after this. Like, this is painful, and I can't imagine being like this for another 2 days. So we got to the hospital at about 6 o'clock and checked in, and they said, we're going to check you again. We might send you home. If you're more dilated, then we'll keep you. So she came in to check me around 6:30, and I was 4 centimeters dilated, so they admitted me. Thank you, Lord. So by that point, I was just so relieved that I wouldn't have to be induced, and I was like, it's finally like time. Like, this baby is finally ready to come. So by then, though, I will say, and my feelings on the epidural up to that point, everybody had asked me, are you going to get, everybody had told me, get the epidural. And I didn't want to go in with a mindset of like, I'm getting the epidural, because if the pain, I mean, I knew the pain would be bad, but I have a really high tolerance for pain. And I just thought, like, in a sick, twisted way, I kind of wanted to feel what it was like. So I was like, I don't want to go in, made up my mind that I'm going to have the epidural, because if I don't really need it, I don't want to have to get it. Well, by the time we were driving to the hospital, and Nick, seriously, it felt like he was hitting every bump in the road. I was like, I am getting the epidural. Like, there is no way I could deal with this. And when they told me I was only 4 centimeters and the pain was so excruciating, I just thought, like, there's no way I could do this. Like, I don't know how. I commend anybody that does this without an epidural. My mom had myself and my brother, who was 10 pounds 2 ounces, and I was 9'3". She had both of us without epidurals. Nick's mom had both him and his sister without an epidural. Like, my aunt, my grandmother had 6 kids without them. Like, I commend these women, because I don't know why anybody would want to feel that pain, honestly. So as soon as we got there, I said, if I decide I need the epidural, like, how soon can I get it? Because I knew once my mind was made up, I wanted to get it, and it was pretty instant. So, I got the epidural at 8:30. By the time I was, like, admitted and checked in to 8:30, I was breathing through these contractions, and they were not fun at all. So I had the epidural at 8:30, and I honestly, like, the epidural, the whole procedure was a piece of cake. And I don't know if it was just because I was in so much pain that I was like, oh, I just want it over with. But it was like really a quick procedure, and it was instant, like instant. I still felt pressure down there, but it was nowhere near pain. It was just a little uncomfortable at times. It would tighten up, and Nick was kind of watching the monitor, so he could kind of, I told him I didn't want to know when there was a contraction coming on, but the couple times, like, I would feel pressure, I would say, is this a contraction? And he would say, yeah. So the epidural was at 8:30, and I was a little worried that it would slow down my labor, which it's said to do that, but it didn't. My labor just kept progressing. So at 9:50, they came in and broke my water, and by then they checked me, and I was 6 centimeters, and they were fearing that she would have pooped a little in the womb because she was so late. But when they broke the water, it was completely clear, and we didn't have to worry about that, so we lucked out. They came in and checked me again at 11:30, and I was 8 centimeters, which was awesome. And then again at 1:15 in the morning, they came and checked me, and I was 9.5 centimeters and at a 0, which is, like, I think you want to be, like, in the pluses to start pushing, and I was at 0. I was at 1:15, and I could definitely feel, like, as I was dilating, I could definitely feel the pressure was getting stronger and stronger. So that was comforting to know that I was, like, progressing. So then at 2:30, I started pushing, and pushing was, like, extremely peaceful, which is so funny to even say that. But so a contraction would come on, and I would push, like, 3 sets, and they would count to 10, and then after that, you would wait for the next contraction, and, like, in between, like, Nick and I are, like, we loved our nurse. Like, we had the most phenomenal nurse we could have possibly wished for. She just made the whole thing, like, peaceful and calm, and if something was going wrong, we didn't know about it. Like, it was just phenomenal. When I did start pushing, she said, now, sometimes when you start pushing, the baby's heart rate could tend to drop, so just, you know, don't be scared. We might just have to give you some oxygen, which I did. Her heart rate dropped a little bit, and they gave me the oxygen. I had it on for about 20 minutes, and then I was done. But yeah, in between, like, my pushing, it was like we were laughing, we were joking, we were talking about what was going on. Like, it was very relaxing. And at one point, I even did say to them, they make this look so much worse in the movies. And she said, well, some people do have it really bad. She said, you just got really lucky. But they also told me, I've heard from a lot of people that when you have the epidural, you don't know when it's time to push. And I disagree with that, because I definitely felt like it was time to push when I was having those contractions. Most of the time the nurse was like, okay, contraction's coming, we're gonna push. But for the most part, I was like, I think I'm having a contraction, I feel like I need to push. So I definitely could still sense that. So I started pushing at 2:30, and it was just to make sure that I was moving her as I was pushing her. And the whole time I just kept saying, like, am I gonna need a C-section? And they were like, you know, we can't say never. But the nurse was like, I think you're definitely moving her, and I think you're past the point of needing one. So it was like a huge sigh of relief. In the back of my mind, though, I kept thinking like 8 pounds, 10 ounces, 8 pounds, 10 ounces. Holy God. So by about 3:30, you know, and I always hear people say, like, I pushed for 3 hours. It's not like consistent continuing pushing. Like, you push between you push at each contraction, and even the nurse towards the end, the nurse was like, we're gonna go every other, just to like give you your strength back. I mean, I pushed hard, but I didn't even break a sweat. Like, I never even used my, like, water bottles on my face. Like, I did get extremely thirsty. So Nick, we had, my hospital had snow cones. So Nick was constantly, like, feeding me my snow cone and ice chips and stuff. And I just, like, at the end of it, I was like, I need water. And my nurse actually was like, you can take a sip. So yeah, I started pushing at 2:30, and she was here at 4:01. She was born, and it was amazing. It was like the most surreal experience ever. I will say, like, the nurse does pretty much everything. The doctor came in at about 3:30, and she got all garbed up, and I looked at Nick, and I'm like, I think this is it. And then yeah, at 4:01 she was born. They put her on my chest. Nick got to call the gender. He got to look, and originally I was like, you should probably stay up north. I don't want you down there. And I don't think he really wanted to see anything either. And then towards the end, when she was kind of like really close to coming out, the nurse and the doctor were like, the baby has so much hair, oh my God. So we knew that right away, which I was like, I assumed. But Nick ended up looking, which I didn't know until way after he told me he looked, and he thought it was like the most amazing thing ever. And I was like, do you still look at me the same way? Like, are you still, he was like, honestly, he said it didn't even bother me. He was like, I think it was just such an amazing, beautiful thing. So I was glad about that. But, yeah, it was amazing. Like, when they put her, like I said, I was totally convinced it was a boy. So when Nick said it's a girl, I was like, oh my God, it was like the biggest surprise ever. And it was so surreal. So they put her on my chest, and they were like cleaning up. I tore naturally. They didn't have to cut me, which was good, but I did tear. And she wasn't quite 8 pounds, 10 ounces, but she was 7 pounds, 9 ounces. So she was still a big baby. And then they delivered the placenta, which that was nothing. That was like a cakewalk. I don't even think I pushed it. I think the doctor just kind of pushed on my stomach. And so while they were like cleaning me up and everything, Nick was with her the whole time. He got to put her first diaper on her. He got to film them weighing her and cleaning her up. And when she first came out, her eyes were like wide open, which I didn't think the baby's eyes are open until like a couple hours. Her eyes were wide open, and they were big, beautiful eyes. And she let out one little like, Murr! And then she wasn't like constantly crying, so that was concerning to me. And I said, why isn't she wailing? And they were like, it's fine, she's fine. And then after that, after everything was like done, they brought her back, and I got to start breastfeeding, and she latched right away. It was a beautiful thing. Her and I, we make a good team. Like, it was very natural. It felt really natural. It felt very easy. It came very easy, and it was phenomenal. It was so amazing. It was like the best experience of my life. It just was amazing. I thought for sure, because I had such an easy pregnancy, that labor would be horrendous, but it was quite the opposite. Like, I would do it again tomorrow in a heartbeat without even thinking about it. It was so pleasant, and I'm glad that I went through it, because I'm kind of like the first out of my core group of friends that has babies, and now I get to kind of tell them, like, it's really not all that bad. Don't be nervous about it. If you are like pregnant and gonna be delivering, like, I think it would be comforting for me to have heard from like a close friend, like, it's really not that bad. Like I said, every experience is different, so you know, I'm sure some people don't have it as great, but for me, like, it was a beautiful thing, and it just was peaceful. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. Nick ended up then taking my video camera and going out to the waiting room. My mom, my dad, and my younger brother were out there, and he filmed them coming in, and my mom was like, is it boy or girl? Is it boy or girl? but I wanted to see their reaction, so he brought them into the room, and she was all swaddled and she had a hat on, so you couldn't really tell. My mom looked at her and she was like, "Is it a girl?" And so we got the whole thing on camera, which was awesome. But yeah, that's my labor and delivery story. It was freaking amazing, and I honestly could say, now that I went through 10 months of not knowing the gender, I don't think I'll ever find out the gender. A lot of people thought I was crazy for not finding out. I thought I was crazy at times too. It was really hard. But it is so worth it in the end to go through all of that and push through the pain, and just like the anticipation of not knowing boy, girl makes everything so worth it. So if you're like on the fence about not knowing if you want to find out or not, I would strongly recommend not finding out, because it truly was like the coolest surprise ever. It's like one of the very few surprises in life that you get anymore. So I would recommend it. I don't think moving forward with our next child, like, I don't think we'll ever find out the gender again, because it's so neat, and it really wasn't that hard. Like, all her like swing and car seat and all that stuff is like very gender neutral. Buying clothes was a little bit hard, but my mom, towards the end, like I had showed you, we bought both genders because we were in that like return window period. So my mom went like and returned all that, the boy stuff for me, so it was really easy. I had bedding picked out for a boy and for a girl, and we already went and got that. Nick and I took a ride with her in the car, and we picked up the bedding for her, so it really wasn't all that bad. And I am a control freak planner, so if I can do it, anybody can. So that's it. I'm sorry this video was so long. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. I hope that you guys found this video somewhat entertaining, and I will talk to you soon.